Hello there everyone and welcome to episode 8 of Career Mode. We start off this video with difficulty updates, so I'm going to now start playing with 107. It was 106 until Monaco, but after that I decided it was time to change the difficulty. As far as development goes, as you saw, the rear downforce failed, but the other two went into the cars, so not all bad news, and we're able to already update it anyway for the next weekend. And yeah, we're in Canada. It's going to start, the race is going to start in heavy rain, so we'll have that to look forward to. And as far as practice goes, we gained pretty much all of the points in the first practice session. The difficulty change didn't really impact the practice sessions that much. They were maybe just a little bit more difficult, but not really difficult, but you know, now I have to do the laps a little bit more cleanly. I have to drive a little bit more of concentration before, you know, the real events of the weekend. Here we're just changing for the first time the components. I wanted to have a few fresher ones, I think, for qualifying at this point. And yeah, anyway, we also have already another upgrade for aerodynamics as far as drag goes. And yeah, practice 2, I was able to get 5th place. It was really encouraging. The qualifying run went pretty well, and we're even ahead of the Red Bull that's also on the softs, so pretty solid progress this season so far as development goes. As you can see there, yeah, rain. It's going to dry out towards the end of the race, so there will be a lot of strategies involved in this race. Let's go on to quali.
Hello and welcome from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix, for today's qualifying session. And I'm here, of course, with Anthony Davidson on what has turned out to be a very pleasant day indeed. No weather to interfere, no problems on the track, so absolutely no room for error.
That's right, Crofty. It's looking good out there at the moment. Each team will have their own game plan for this session, and of course, once the cars leave the garage, they'll be under parc fermé conditions, so any last-minute adjustments need to be done right here and now. Beyond that, it's all up to the driver. Who can keep their tyres in the right temperature, who can hit their apexes. No race fuel on board these days, of course. These are the fastest cars we've had in a long, long time, and it's right here in qualifying where they're at their absolute peak. Let's get started.
And we jump straight on to qualifying 1, where we are already doing a hot lap. We start on the softs and we do a P2 ahead of Albon and Ricciardo there, and by the end of the session we're in P11. But yeah, we still go out anyway. I wasn't feeling overly confident. I knew I had enough pace to get to, at this point, to Q3. But I still felt like the lap just wasn't good enough, and the time just kind of showed, you know. There we are in P11. For some reason in the other image it was P13. I don't know why that was that way, but yeah, we're up 3/10 in the end of the second sector. And yeah, this is a pretty solid lap, and it's going to, you know, spoiler alert, going to put us in Q2. And yeah, in the Wall of Champions I actually damaged my front wing, but that doesn't stop us from getting P4 in Q1. So yeah, pretty solid job there, also from Kimi getting P9 and getting out of qualifying 1 once again after Monaco. Pretty good first part of qualifying. And now into qualifying 2, hopefully we will be just as fast. Yeah, as you can see there, just looking through the grid, no real big surprises here, all pretty average. The Williams out, one Haas, I think also one Toro Rosso. Just the usual suspects getting out in Q1. And heading into Q2, once again I was feeling pretty confident. The pace was there to get into Q3. The car is now the 4th best car in the grid, so it's really easy to get into the later qualifying sessions. and into Q3. As you can see there, Hamilton kind of blocked me a little bit and made me lose time, so the lap wasn't really great. At this point it's P10, but I'm definitely going to lose position, so I had to go out again, and by the time I started the last lap I'm already P13, so it was a wise move to obviously go out again. And also the fact that the rain is going to hit before the race and we're starting in heavy rain conditions, means that we're not going to start on these tires, so we can take absolutely everything out of them because they will not be our tire for the beginning of the race. And anyway, the lap we're already 3/10 up in the second sector, and by the end of the lap we're already in P15. Ooh, that was almost a corner cut there, but a pretty solid lap, and that puts us in Q3 actually. Getting P9, and actually Raikkonen was able to do a faster lap than us by over 2/10, so yeah. Anyway, no, actually the two Toro Rossos were out in this one. That's still pretty good job from them getting into qualifying too. And in Q3 I only had one set of soft tires, meaning that I could only do one run, so yeah, it was never going to be brilliant. I used all of the tires, mostly because I knew the rain, the race was going to be in the rain, so I just went out and used absolutely all of the tires available and ended up in P10. So yeah, no real big surprise there. Only one run, and we're still like only 15 thousandths of a second behind Magnussen. So yeah, it was a bit unfortunate only getting P10 while Kimi was able to get P7. There was more pace in the car, but only one run meant that there was really no chance of me getting at least P8, which has at this point to be the bare minimum for me in Q3, because having the fourth best car means I have to start from the top 4 rows. So yeah. Qualifying is done, we start from P10, the race is going to be in heavy rain, at least at the beginning, and it's going to dry out towards the end. A lot of strategy will be involved in this, but only time will tell. Let's go to the race.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's a tricky circuit to tackle in wet conditions, with top speed still of critical importance down the long back straight. There are 2.7 miles and 14 corners overall on a circuit that in the dry can see average lap speeds of around 130 miles per hour. We'll be lucky to get anywhere near that today.
You should have some space going into the first corner, so try to keep it tidy.
And here we go for the Canadian Grand Prix. This is the race. We're going to start on intermediate tires, which was a bit surprising because it was supposed to be heavy rain, but it's going to be most of the race in the intermediates, and hopefully it will dry towards the end. Maybe not. I mean, the pace in the dry isn't really that good, but anyway, 5 red lights and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix. Not a bad start. We were able to keep the position. We started P9. Yeah, I think we started P9. Anyway, we get ahead of Magnussen, who also loses the position to Stroll. Now he's struggling there. Also, Perez and Raikkonen are fighting ahead of me. And we're just going to follow them right now. Hopefully try and get Perez and take away the pressure from Kimi. And just lock the 6th and 7th position for us. And we go up the inside of Perez in this corner, and we're able to get the position. A pretty ballsy move from me, and we're able to capitalize on that fight between Kimi and Perez, and we have P7 at this point in the race, right at the beginning of the first lap. So a pretty solid beginning of the race for us, and we're able to pretty much secure 6th and 7th at the early stages of the race, very early stages of the race. and hopefully now we'll be able to stretch away from the midfield pack and keep up with the big boys from Red Bull and Ferrari. Anyway, we jump into the third lap. We do our fastest lap. The second one wasn't really that great.
The track is drying, but it's going to take a while to clear the standing water off the line. Don't start thinking about slicks just yet. Gap to car in front is 1.5 seconds.
A pretty early message from Jeff saying that the track was actually drying up. So, not really something I can believe in. Anyway, this is Sebastian Vettel, who actually got a grid penalty. That's why we started P9. He started towards the back, and now he has to fight his way through the field. And while that's happening, we're just doing fastest laps. We're trying to chase down Kimi, and we're gaining a lot of time. And at this point, by the beginning of lap 8, we're pretty much at the back of him. And yeah, here we are at the end of lap 8, just pretty much at the rear of Raikkonen, trying to keep some pressure on him and trying to overtake him, but unfortunately it won't be on this lap. Just lost. I didn't really have a great exit in the last corner, so we'll have to try again for lap 9 and just keep the pressure on Raikkonen, and hopefully we'll be able to get the position. And here I kind of lose the back end once again. Yeah, the tires are starting to fade a little bit at this point. Lap 9. And yeah, end of lap 9, we're kind of having a look on Raikkonen. He goes defensive into the last corner, which we really didn't need to. So now he had a bad run, a bad exit, and that means we can actually go on the inside, and that's what we do, and we get the position from Raikkonen. We're now in P6 after a pretty good overtake on Raikkonen. He left the door open, and I just went for it. I knew it was my moment to shine and to just get the position. And that's exactly what I did, and from now on it's just trying to managing the race because the guys ahead are just pulling away.
Tyre update for you, and it looks like this set is coming to the end of its life. We don't anticipate having much more time before it's completely gone. The grip loss will be sudden, so be ready.
Yeah, Jeff just telling us about the tires, and one lap later I believe I am going into the pits. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pit here on lap 15, at the end of lap 15. Doing an aggressive approach, entering the pits. Pretty good. Trying to lose as little time as possible. And after this stop, we actually emerge behind Sebastian Vettel, meaning that we might just have to overtake him in the race, but he didn't stop yet. He hasn't stopped yet, so not really much to worry about at this point. And now it's just a matter of managing the race until we have to pit again for the slicks when the track dries up, if it does dry up. At this point, you are never too sure because the game says one thing and then during the race a lot of things happen, and sometimes just the weather kind of tricks you a little bit.
Some information on Gasly. They have an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
And then we get this information. Gasly has a problem on his car and he's going to be slow, meaning that he's right ahead of us and we have the pace over him, so it's going to be easy pickings for us as we go on turn 1 and do pretty much the same move we did on Raikkonen just around 10 laps ago, maybe 13 laps ago. I think it was in lap 9, so yeah, around over 10 laps ago. We do the same move on the same corner, pretty much a replica of what happened. And Raikkonen, one lap later, does the overtake on Gasly as well, and we're now into P5 and P6. So a great result for Alfa Romeo once again, in at least, hopefully, it will be.
The tyre situation is an interesting one, but I think the right call is to stick with what we've got right now. It seems they've fixed whatever the problem was. They're coming back up to speed.
Anyway, I don't remember what I was saying, but yeah, the tires are not really the best ones at this point. The slicks...
A new strategy is available on the MFT.
If Jeff wasn't always talking over me. Yeah, we're going to pit in for the medium tire, I believe. And also Gasly at this point has solved this issue, meaning that he is going to get his speed back, but at this point it's going to be pretty hard to overtake the Alfa Romeo since we have pretty good straight line speed. After all, we do have a Ferrari engine. And this is Kimi getting out of the pits ahead of Gasly and quite a bit behind me, so from this moment onwards there wasn't really much contest for my position. I just nursed the car back home, and then Charles Leclerc actually DNFs in this race, an engine failure I believe from the Ferrari driver, meaning that we are promoted to P4, which would be the best result of the season for Alfa Romeo. And also P5 from Kimi, which means that we might be able to get 20 points in this race. And only in Monaco was the first time that both of us, me and Kimi, scored in the same race. So yeah, the team has just progressed so much in the last few races, and now we're in a position where we can get 20 points in a race weekend. But unfortunately, Vettel started from the back and did an amazing recovery, and at this point, by the beginning of the last lap, he actually got Raikkonen and was charging towards me, but at this point he was a good 2 seconds behind me, so nothing real to worry about. In the end, Hamilton won the race. Here he is, crossing the line, getting another win for Mercedes and for himself, and expanding the gap in the championship. And we're going to get away with the best result of this season, P4 and also P6 to Kimi. Great race from Alpha.
Good job, you did really well. Super driving.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
Mercedes gets another 1-2. Max Verstappen, I think, steps on the podium for the second time this season. If not, it's definitely his first, either first or second, I'm not sure. But yeah, Mercedes keeps dominating the championship. Red Bull is slowly making inroads to Ferrari. And we're in P4, pretty much in no man's land at this point. We're clearly the best car from the midfield. We're ahead of the midfield at this point, but we're not at the same level as the top 3 teams, so we're just picking up points. And today we only picked 1 point less than Red Bull. Yeah, only 1 point away from them. And this weekend overall, so pretty good result. We're taking the fight to the top teams. And hopefully we'll keep doing this until the end of the season, because the main goal is to have the best car, obviously. But by the end of the season I want to at least be kind of messing around with the top 3 teams. Anyway, we jump into P7, we get ahead of Perez, and we have 45 points in the Constructors' Championship, ahead of Racing Point. At this point, they're not really catching up to us anymore. And that was the Canadian Grand Prix.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
Not that many, I mean 6 positions is still a lot.
We all underestimated you, didn't we?
Obviously you did.
The weather was miserable today, but do you feel this was an advantage for you?
It's always an advantage for me. The weather changes just suit me.
It wasn't the cleanest race today, was it?
I hate these questions.
Appreciate your time.
Damn, she keeps screaming me with those questions, always making me lose reputation with the team, or lowering morale. Yeah, I should really stop answering those, but I don't want to be rude. It's a goddamn video game. Well, anyway, we get a lot of resource points, and we are going to use them into doing an upgrade. I think we're going to do another one in this episode as well. We already have the downforce one that we did during practice, And now I think we're going to invest in the chassis, I believe. Yeah, I believe we're going into the chassis, yeah, exactly. Weight reduction, lightweight wheel rims, it's going to be the one there that I'm going for. And hopefully keep making inroads in the chassis, which is now our weakest department. But yeah, we're P4, and with all these upgrades we're definitely going to get up there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. P4 in the race, pretty good result overall. Also Kimi getting P6, 20 points, and hopefully in France, I believe it's going to be the next race, we're going to be just as competitive, if not more. But that is for the next video. I'll see you then.